It's another iPhone season, and with the iPhone 14 being released, you might be considering an upgrade. Or maybe you're just jumping from an older Android device, and if you already have an iPhone that is fairly new, should you even consider an upgrade now? Or should you save your money and wait for the iPhone 15 instead? Well, that depends, and today, like I did in the last couple of years, I'll try and help you in that decision. I'm Alex and I do down-to-earth tech videos. Apple are allegedly having some iPhone 14 production issues. There's been a lot of leaks about the new iPhone, so it's natural for a lot of people to be excited for it, but also quite anxious at the same time about the new iPhone 14. There are many things to consider, right? One hand you have the iPhone 14, which is supposed to have the biggest camera upgrade for a number of years, a new model as well in the lineup, and an even better battery, which was already amazing, and of course, always on display. On the other hand, it's the usual stuff, right? It looks and feels exactly like it did for the last 3 to 4 years, with very minor design changes, and some exclusive features to Pro models, which you could argue, could also be on the standard models. Typical Apple move there, right, to sell more of the higher end ones. You could argue though, that if it ain't broke, why fix it? And that's why Apple don't really change the designs. But when you look at the competition out there, it feels like the iPhone is lacking a little bit in some innovation. And hey, I expect nothing else from Apple but an amazing marketing campaign, making us all believe that our current models of the iPhone are now obsolete. I have an iPhone 14 Pro Max already here, which is a dummy device, right, that case manufacturers use to model their cases. And you can see, right, that the changes will be very minimal from a design perspective, but potentially quite big on the camera aspect. It is a chunkier camera. So with all that in mind, let's go through some of the options that you've got, right? Let's say, for example, that you've settled on an upgrade, right? You've decided that's what you're doing. In this case, there are still some different scenarios and different options, of course, so I wanted to put this video together for you to share what I think is the most sensible thing to do, depending on where you are, budget-wise or based on your current device. Let's start with the first scenario, which is, where you have a phone that is about 3 years old or even older than that. In this case, whether you like it or not, the features have moved on considerably since 2019, right? We have better cameras, we finally have some really decent displays now with 120Hz refresh rate, and an awesome battery life, which has always been the case with iPhones. But should you go straight for the iPhone 14? Sure, if this makes sense financially for you and it makes you happy, why wouldn't you, right? I do appreciate that buying tech goes beyond the features of the device these days, right? It's not just about the specs. There's an aspect of having the latest that may be important to you. You may be up for an upgrade anyway in your current plan, or you may have cash saved up already, in which case, yes, the latest iPhone 14 will probably be the best one for you to give you that peace of mind that you don't need to upgrade anytime soon. Which brings me to the iPhone 13 option. This is the iPhone 13 Pro Max. Alongside the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 4 and the S22 Ultra, this has been the ultimate smartphone for quite some time now. I did loads of comparisons between these models, and you can check those on the channel later if you want to. But if you settle on Apple, right, you might be kind of stuck in that ecosystem, or that might be really important to you. The iPhone 13 Pro range is still a beast and will remain a great device for a few more years. I would even say that the 13 Pro would be an even better choice than the 13 Pro Max, depending on your budget. It is lighter, it's a lot easier to hold, and has the same cameras as the 13 Pro Max. Just something for you to ponder over for sure. And when it comes to that longevity, right, that's the only thing that worries people about Android devices, which is, is that refresh cycle. I know it's getting better in terms of updates, but the resale value is not as good as any iPhone. When you buy an iPhone, you kind of secure that when you resell it, you might get some decent money back for it. On the other hand, people like Samsung, for example, offer some out-of-this-world deals, which Apple don't ever do really. The iPhone 13 Pro Max has this amazing camera stabilization, it takes really nice night portraits, and it takes no thrills, really high quality videos, 4K 30, 4K 60. I've been having so much fun with the Z Fold 4 here, but to be honest with you, the iPhone does all the basics really well. The built-in camera app isn't the most feature-rich out there, right, for iPhone, and that's always been the case. But using things like, Filmic Pro and other third-party apps that you can get makes the iPhone a real powerhouse for photography and content creation. I actually know a lot of creators here on YouTube who grew their channels to hundreds of thousands recording videos on their iPhone, so it truly has a great camera. The camera on the S22 Ultra and Fold devices, for example, and even the Pixel 6 Pro here, of course, are just a bit more fun to use in my view. But when it comes to sheer video quality, especially in low light situations, I think the iPhone 13 Pro Max or the Pro range still delivers a fairly consistent result. So yes, there'll be a lot of noise about the new iPhone 14 for a while. Marketing from Apple is amazing. They'll be trying to push that down your throats. But it's just something to consider. The 13 Pro range shouldn't be ignored really. As I mentioned, I did loads more detailed camera, gaming, battery comparisons here on the channel. If you want to know more, there'll be links down below for you. Then there's the iPhone 14 design. If you're coming from an iPhone 10 or older, this design, even though it's not new anymore, is going to be quite striking for you really, right? Coming from those older iPhones. Jumping from those models to the 14 will be amazing, of course. You lose this aspect of the flat edges from the design when you use a case with it, of course, but even then, there are some really cool options out there that don't take much away from the original, this flat edge design. Which brings me to today's sponsors of this video, CASETiFY. CASETiFY have incredible case designs and are always a great protective choice. Their cases are made of 65% plant-based materials, they are super light, and they come with this antimicrobial coating which gets rid of 99% of bacteria. And these days, that's really important, right? Their SheetTech 2.0 technology offers great protection with 6.6 feet drop protection for their impact model case and 9.8 feet protection on their ultra impact cases. One of my favorite things about CASETiFY is their endless print options. There literally are like hundreds in there. They're constantly adding new designs as well, and I've been reviewing them for the last 2 years at least. CASETiFY always brings some really cool options, not just for iPhone, but for Android devices too. The difference between the Impact and Ultra Impact is on the corners here. The Ultra Impact cases have these 4 extra corners of SheetTech 2.0, which is this material that they use for protection, for that extra drop protection of 9.8 feet. That's about 3 meters high. I drop tested the 12 Pro Max, the 13 Pro Max, and I will be drop testing the 14 Pro Max, no doubt. And the good news for you is, as a viewer of this channel, you get a special 15% discount too, which is great. Their website is super easy to use, and here's where CASETiFY really shines for me. You can customize your case on the fly and see what they will look like on your phone with your own style applied to it. Alternatively, you've got another option, which is to choose from their hundreds of designs too. They've got loads of artists constantly updating their designs, from colorful, funny, classic, transparent, whatever it is that you want, they've got it. Grab yours today from casetify.com/AlexG to get that 15% off. Going back to the video and the reasons why the iPhone 13 Pro range might be a decent option for you. Well, the display is fantastic, right? With that 120 Hz refresh rate, and even though I don't really use it that much, there's this feature, cinematic mode, can be quite fun to use when it works. But overall, it is a solid device. From a performance perspective, you're never going to have an issue with it. The battery is second to none, really. Yes, the design overall is getting a little bit dated now, but the 14 range is not going to be looking that much different to the 13, right? So my main point here is, if you're not quite ready to go to that latest iPhone 14 and pay that premium for the shiny new version, the iPhone 13 lineup is still a fantastic option. To give you an idea, the rumored pricing at launch for the iPhone 14, again, all rumored prices here. And to give you a little bit of food for thought here, you can already find the iPhone 13 Pro Max selling for way below $900. If you can find a deal like that, that is already a massive saving of $200, right? And I expect that after launch, that price will go down even further. And let's not forget the 12 Pro range either, right? These phones are still in great condition in a lot of cases. I gave my 12 Pro Max to my wife last year, and she still has it and it looks brand new. Remember, the iPhone 13, for example, is still less than a year old, and because for some of this time, a lot of us have been still in lockdown or just coming out of it, many people are still today working from home, so the condition on these devices are likely to be much better than they used to be. This here is the 256 gig iPhone 13 Pro Max, and check out the battery health on this. This particular iPhone has been used pretty much every single day since its launch last year, and is still a 96% capacity. And the external condition is pretty good as well, as you can see. So even though it's second hand, it's pretty much brand new, right, in that aspect. I will be ordering the 14 Pro Max again, most likely, and for the first time on the channel, I might actually get this new model, whatever that is, 14 Plus, 14 Max, we'll know in a minute. And you can be sure I'll be comparing them against other devices as well, which reminds me, YouTube can be quite tricky for a small channel like mine. If you enjoyed this video so far, a thumbs up goes a really long way in getting YouTube to recommend this channel to other people. And if you like my stuff, a sub to the channel will be amazing too. The benefit to you is that I'll be here at least once a week, if not more, with a down-to-earth tech video for you. Before we talk about the second upgrade scenario, I did a couple of other iPhone 14 videos sharing a lot more details about what we know so far about pricing, release dates, so I won't waste much of your time on that here. But if you want to check those videos out, I'll leave you with some links at the end. Right, the second scenario is you already have an iPhone and it's already the latest, right? It's the 13 Pro range or the 13 range. What should you do in this case? Well, for me, there are two recommendations really that I can give confidently, right? Because if you're someone who relies on the quality of your images and videos, well, I'm not saying just for your personal Instagram and TikToks, but you have a business perhaps, or you're trying to build a personal brand, or you're a photographer, or you take photos for your customers to see that really matter to you, that they are in the highest quality possible. Or you might be a photographer where, minor improvements to the camera really matters, then absolutely go for the upgrade, because the business, what you generate with a new phone will kind of pay for itself. In this case, you can see this as an investment, right? And you want to get that edge in quality, and those new features and the camera upgrades will give you that. Which brings me to the other option, right? You already have the iPhone 13, and really, apart from the ability to flex a new shiny toy, which is important to some people, there's absolutely no real reason to upgrade. Remember, it's going to look very similar to the current phone. It's not like people will go, wow, look at that, that's the new iPhone. Whoa, that's not likely to happen. I'd say in this case, you could save a few $100s and upgrade next year. Don't forget, come September 2023, the iPhone 15 will come out anyway. Sounds cliche, but yeah, basically if you don't need to upgrade it, done. And look, I like to keep it transparent here. As a reviewer, I like to keep it real when it comes to tech brands. And by the way, a bit of context is important so you know where I'm coming from. I've used every single iPhone since the first one. Yes, I'm old. But if you know this channel, you know that I've used a fair share of Android devices as well, especially in the last couple of years. In 2020, I actually changed completely to the S21 Ultra, and that was one of my favorite devices ever. And now I'm kind of jumping in between the iPhone and the Z Fold 4 here. My current favorite phone, just because of the form factor, but that's another video. This context is just so that you know that even though I might be recommending one iPhone or another, I like to keep things in perspective, right? And as impartial as possible. Despite the disappointments I've had with other Apple products like the iPad, I'm looking forward to the new iPhone as well. I love tech in general, and I think some of us have just been conditioned to be excited about Apple iPhones, even though deep down we know there's probably not much coming from this upgrade. But I honestly think it's a great time to be looking at smartphones in general, keeping an open mind, if you're not tied to the Apple ecosystem, and even if you are, something I always say is, when the competition keeps pushing each other, it's great for us, the consumers, right? I always take YouTube review videos with a massive pinch of salt. Some videos may be sponsored, like this one, even though it's not by a brand like Apple or whatever. Right? My video is no different, which is why I wanted to give you that context. But at the end of the day, I do buy these devices with my own cash, my hard-earned cash, so I know how important it is for you to make the right decision. It's a big investment after all to buy these things. It's a shiny new toy, but they're over $1,000 in some of these cases. It's a lot of money. Being in the tech industry or doing tech reviews here is very easy for me to personally, keep chasing the latest and greatest, but even I have to remind myself of the fact that these upgrades are fairly minimal and not everyone needs the latest and greatest, so I have to share a bit of responsibility here. I get no commissions on sales from Apple, so I don't give a crap, right? It makes no difference to me. YouTube thinks you're gonna like this video over here, and I made this playlist as well, which I think you'll like. Don't forget to subscribe. See you soon.
I tried peeking through the cracks, saw the light but couldn't catch